Okay.
Just like I said, it's my favorite. I can feel it, you know, like.
Welcome back, everyone. We are going over this rifle that you see in front of me today. This is a relatively new rifle, at least as of when I'm recording this. It came out about 6 months ago, and this is the BFT 5.56 from Century Arms. So it is a 5.56 AK, made 100% in America, and it is the follow-on, if you will, of the early BFTs that we have reviewed here on the channel, which were chambered in 7.62 by 3.9. They are now offered, of course, in 5.56, like we have it here, as well as 5.45 by 3.9. And one thing to get out of the way right up front is that this is not like a clone build from Century. It's basically just their own animal. It's not like a clone AK-101 or anything like that. Basically, like I said, it was just the BFT, and they switched it over into 5.56. They did make one big change that I actually suggested in my BFT 47 review, and that was the barrel itself. So this one here has a 16-inch 4150 barrel. It is chrome lined, however, so the original BFT 47 and 7.62 by 3.9 did not have that. And in that video, I said that that was a miss by Century. I guess they think I was right, because they actually did change it with both of these. Both the 5.56 as well as the 5.45 version have a chrome lined barrel. Interestingly, out front, it does come with an AK-74 style brake that you guys should see here, and I shot it a good bit in that configuration. As you would expect, it is insanely loud, but it does a good job at controlling muzzle rise. The downside of it, of course, is that there's fireballs coming out and your eardrums will hate you. I'm not a big fan of the AK-74 style brake, and one of the other things about that you wouldn't realize until you look at it up close and personal is that the actual thread pattern on there is not a 24mm thread. It's actually a 14mm thread. So there's definitely more accessories that will work with it out there in terms of muzzle devices. Of course, here we have the Huxworks can on there. Ran a good bit that way, as well as in the standard configuration. One thing to note there is that it does have a bayonet mount, and with the brake that it comes with from the factory, you can mount a bayonet on there, which is something I definitely like. But the barrel profile is a little bit thicker than some, and that's kind of going to be a theme here on the rifle. It's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit heavier, it's a little bit chunkier, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Some folks are going to like that. And one thing that's interesting here about our gas block moving into our gas tube is that it is vented. So that was something that a lot of the earlier AKs did in terms of venting gas tubes. Does it actually matter? The answer to that is no, in my opinion. I've shot a lot of AKs, both with vented and non-vented gas tubes. I've never noticed a difference. Another interesting thing about this rifle here is that our retainer here for the handguard doesn't have a sling mount on there. So that is something that's very different from most AKs. Almost all AKs that I'm aware of are going to have a sling mounting point there out on the front. Now the furniture that comes on this one is that, I guess, Pepto-Bismol red, we'll call it. It is, you know, redwood furniture has been a thing on AK, but this one's a little next level red, if you will. But one thing to talk about here when talking about the furniture, there's dogs fighting off camera. We're just gonna roll with it. One thing to talk about with the furniture is that if you plan on swapping anything out furniture-wise, you have to account for the receiver itself. So the receiver is a 1.5mm receiver, which is different from most stamped AKs. Most stamped AKs are a 1mm receiver. And then additionally, we have, of course, our bulged front trunnion, similar to what you would see on an RPK. So because that receiver is thicker, basically all the interfaces of where the furniture goes in, both the stock and the handguard here, have to be thinner, if that makes sense. So let's say hypothetically you wanted to drop like a Magpul handguard or a JMac handguard or something like that on here. Be prepared to Dremel that surface, because it is going to not fit, because again, thickness internally is going to be different than what it would be on a traditional 1mm receiver. So there is that. So the handguard itself has a nice palm swell there. It's very comfortable. That is AK-74 style. And then of course the stock back here is going to be a Warsaw length stock, which is something I prefer on the AK. Some of you guys who are real tall might want a NATO length stock, but I like the Warsaw for the AK. I like getting up close and personal on it. And I suppose before we continue on back rearward of the gun and start disassembling it, let's head back out to the range and see what kind of groups we can get out of this setup here, and then come back and walk through more details of the internals. Now we're going to see what kind of groups we can get out of this. We have PMC 55 grain 223 in there. Just a 3X micro prism on there. So typically for accuracy testing, if you guys have been around a while, I like to have at least a 6X magnified optic. I just couldn't find my 1:6 on an AK mount before coming out here. So we're going with 3X. That is my excuse. This target is downrange at 100 yards. We have a CTK precision rest. On the end of the rifle is, of course, the Huxworks flow-through suppressor, and I think that's pretty much it. So we're gonna get to it, fire this stuff, and we're gonna load up some match Hornady as well. All the ammo that you guys have seen throughout this video has been provided by our friends over at Firearms Depot, so huge thank you to them for that. They provide all of the non-9mm ammo here on the channel, and have good prices, so definitely check them out. The next load that we're going to put in there is some Hornady. This is Frontier 68 grain boat tail hollow point match, and it's 223 chambering. So we'll see how she likes this. All right, let's go check them out. A little bit of a surprise there with those results on the accuracy. So PMC, of course, and then that match stuff down here from Hornady, 68 grain. And the PMC definitely has a bad group. It's a pretty good group. Right at 1.5 inches center to center from the widest point. So I'll take that 1.5 MOA. Yep, I'll take that all day long from an AK. And we're right at just over 2 inches, so like 2 inches and 1/8 on that one there with the Frontier. So that's still pretty good as well. I will take both of those. So as we just said there, pretty good accuracy out of this rifle. I'm not mad about that at all. There are ARs that I own that aren't that accurate, so I will take it. But that is what we would expect from a modern chrome lined barrel. So there is that. One thing I didn't mention is that the sights on this gun, the gun is 0-4 iron sights. It's almost perfectly in the middle. That is one thing that is nice and is not always the case with some AKs. And then of course we have our traditional ladder style, if I can speak, rear sight back here. It's not marked with any sort of like white paint or anything like that. I know some folks like it, some folks don't. But there is that. I suppose if you wanted to fill it in, you certainly could do so. Over here on this side of the receiver, I will take this scope mount off. This is a Midwest Industries Gen 2, I believe, QD mount, and it's a great little mount if you guys dig it. One thing that is different about this rifle versus your traditional AKs is that the tolerances right here in the middle of the mount are actually a little bit tighter on this versus your AKM style. So some of your optics mounts may not fit on there. I've used, I've used the Midwest Industries as well as RS Regulate on this gun, and both of them fit just fine. I do believe though, just by looking at it, that the master mount won't fit, for example, and there's probably others that won't fit as well. So just kind of know that going into it. That said, for an American audience rather, I would imagine most people are going to use Midwest Industry or RS Regulate. Those are the two big players in the game, and both of those do fit on there. So there is that. So the magazine release is enlarged versus your standard AKM, and the magazine it comes with, I believe this is an AC Unity magazine. It's not marked on there, but I do believe that is what it is, and it's kind of cloning, if you will, the AK-12 with your windows up front. It is steel reinforced both on the lips as well as the lug, and seems to be a pretty standard AK mag in terms of polymer. Now, we tried it with several different magazines. So these are the Polish barrel mags. They work just fine in there. We also tried it with the Bulgarian, like SLR 106 mags, for example, and 105, and those worked in there just fine as well. So just know that going forward. Disassembly, standard AK. It does have a non-ribbed top cover for those of you guys who are into that. The actual recoil spring and rod look completely normal. There's nothing crazy going on there. One thing that's nice that some folks will like is the safety here has that notch in there. So that way if you need to lock your bolt back to the rear for whatever reason, I know a lot of ranges require it to be shown empty. It does have that feature. And then pulling our bolt carrier out, one thing I've noticed several times is that this thing is tight. There you go. Which could be either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. I don't think it matters either way. Looking at the carrier, for whatever reason, Century has continued making these with the lightning cuts. Again, I really don't think it matters, but you know, your traditional AKs are not going to have those, for example. But looking at it, the wear looks pretty good. I know everyone wants to focus on the tail there. I should note, round count on this gun is just over 700 rounds, and the tail is deforming a little bit, but nothing crazy, nothing that I would call excessive or anything like that, and very little wear that's visible there on the carrier. Should note, I always clean and lubricate my guns before I test them. I know some folks like to just take them out of the box on their YouTube channel, but I think guns are meant to be lubricated, so that's how we test here on the channel, just with everything. The bolt itself is in the raw. I should note there that the trunnion and the bolt are forged. So that's something that a lot of people ask for as well for American-made AKs, and it absolutely is forged. You can see the forge marks on it. I should be rolling in photos there, but everything looks pretty good there on the bolt. You do have a little bit of wear on the lugs. It's probably not perceivable on camera. You can see it when you look at it with your naked eye. Looking inside there, same thing. It looks pretty good on your locking lugs. On the right side there, we have a little bit of wear, but nothing I would complain about at all. Looking inside the rails, looks good. The trigger on this gun is Century's Rack 1 trigger. It's a decent trigger. It's nothing to write home about, but it's not bad either. So basically you pull, you get to a wall right there. That's your slop right there, and then there's your wall. It's very notable. And then there's your brake. It brakes right around 4 pounds on my scale. Oops. Don't let your hammer go home, kids. It's not as bad as it on AKs as it is in ARs, of course, but that is the internals. Let's get it put back together and continue on. Through the magic of video editing, we have the gun back together. A few things to point out is that our stock there does not have a trap door like your traditional AKMs would have. And then we also do have a sling point there at the rear of the stock. So you do get 1 point to mount a sling from the factory, just no sling mount up front. That is a little bit weird. Additionally, I should point out the grip there is a US palm grip. It's one of my favorite AK grips out there. That and the mag pull are kind of my two go-tos for sure. It has good texture on there. Nothing wrong with it at all. And one thing I didn't point out when talking about the safety is that it does have that little ledge there that helps you get aggressive on it to be able to actually use it. The safety is extremely tight. If I was going to keep testing this rifle longer, and I probably will, I'm going to loosen that safety up a little bit. I'm going to fit it, make it a little bit looser. It's a little bit tight for me. I know some people really like tight safeties, so it comes from the factory tight, that's for sure. All right, so I think those are pretty much the details of the rifle. And before we get into sort of my thoughts overall, if you will, on it, recommendations, reliability, all of those sorts of things, I do want to thank the folks over at Brownells who are the main channel sponsor. I believe they do carry these, and they carry all types of other things like ammo, optics, mounts if you want to, as well as a ton of gunsmithing supplies. Brownells, it's run by great people, which makes it really easy to recommend them to my viewers. So big thank you to them for sponsoring the channel. Now, the important stuff that you guys want to know, reliability, like I said, it's just over 700 rounds. We had one malfunction, and it was a failure to feed with this magazine. And I believe it was PMC as well. And I don't know why, I don't know what happened. It just didn't feed, got hung up on the feed lip, which happened. Other than that, it's been 100% reliable. You guys have seen the accuracy out there. I will take that accuracy all day long, as I think I've said a couple times. And the next thing to talk about is going to be price point on this guy. And the MSRP on it is going to be $1,049. Of course, street price, it is going to be less. And if you guys are watching this anywhere besides YouTube, there will be a link down below to the cheapest that I have found it, that you guys can pick it up if you guys are interested in. Now, what do I think of it overall? Well, I think price point, performance-wise, feature set, all of those sorts of things, for an American-made gun, I think it's a decent price point. Like, look around right now at the 5.56 AKs that are available on the market. You're not going to find a lot that are going to be cheaper than this. There's one that I'm aware of, but most of them are going to be a lot higher. And if you want an AK and you want it in 5.56, this is definitely one I would look at in the American market. It appears to be well made. Obviously, they made the upgrade to chrome line the barrels like I recommended, so barrel length should be pretty darn long. It takes the most common pattern magazines in America. There are other patterns of 5.56 AK Max for folks who don't know that, but these are the most common ones. Like I believe Palmetto State Armory even makes magazines for them, for example. So they are out there, they are available. And one thing also to talk about is just the light recoiling nature of the rifle. If you look around YouTube and elsewhere, forums, you'll see a lot of guys doing like zero recoil AK videos like that and builds like that. And basically all of them are focused on using the 5.56 simply because it just, in this system, with that long stroke piston coming back and forth, it's about as pleasant as you can get for an AK. So if you're somebody who wants the AK but doesn't want a lot of recoil, wants to use the common cartridge, and you're not into 7.62 by 3.9, this definitely might be one worth looking at for sure. I think that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about the rifle, anything I didn't cover, Be sure to let me know down below in the comment section. Additionally, if you guys aren't following me on all my social media, particularly the non-meta ones where I can actually post things and not be censored, I definitely recommend you do that. If you're following me there, if you've subscribed on YouTube, hit the notification bell, and you're still not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, that means you are being censored by an algorithm. One way to get around that, the easiest way, is to sign up for the email. You can do that at the website here on your screen. This will sign you up for both the daily deals email as well as the monthly email. And that monthly email goes out once a month. Actually just went out like I think yesterday as when I'm filming this. And it has all of the videos since the previous month's email went out. So that way there's no big tech giant censoring your eyes from my content. And the daily deals email goes out every day as the name indicates and has 8 of the best deals that we find around the internet. If the item, whatever it is, rifle, magazines, optics, ammo, suppressors, whatever. If it is in that email, it's the cheapest I know of anywhere for that item on that day. So that way, hopefully it saves you guys some time and hopefully saves you some money as well. And let me know what you guys think about this rifle. I think it's an interesting offering. There's not a lot of competitors right now in America to it. So I'll be interested to see what you guys think. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.